The text came through on a bleak Tuesday in March, the kind of day where the sky can't decide between rain and a spiteful sleet. I was in my home office, elbow deep in color swatches for a client's nursery, my own coffee gone cold. The phone buzzed against the mahogany, a tiny earthquake in my carefully curated quiet. It was my mother. Not a call. A text. That was the first clue. Mom, darling, hope you're well. Dad and I have been thinking. This year, we'd like a quiet Easter. Just a simple dinner with us and your sister's family. The kids are so overstimulated these days, and you know how chaotic big holidays can be. We need some peace. Hope you understand. Maybe we can do a lunch with you the week after? Zoxo. I read it. Then I read it again, my eyes snagging on the phrases like wool on a nail. A quiet Easter. Just us and your sister's family. Hope you understand. A sound left my throat, a short, dry puff of air that wasn't quite a laugh. I placed the phone face down, my fingers tingling. I looked out my window at the gray London street, the orderly queues of Georgian houses, the bare trees. My world, my quiet, successful, solitary world, seemed to tilt a few degrees off its axis. Just a simple dinner. With my sister, Sarah, her hedge fund husband, Thomas, and their two spirited children, Oliver and Chloe, ages 6 and 4, who were less overstimulated and more feral. The same children whose birthday parties required event planners, whose Christmas lists were PowerPoint presentations. The idea of those two tornadoes creating peace was so ludicrous it was almost artistic. But that wasn't the point. The point was the exclusion. The polite, surgically precise editing of me, Maya, from the family frame. The afterthought lunch the week after, like a consolation prize for not making the cut. For 32 years, I had been the family constant. The reliable one. When Sarah was off being dazzling at Oxford and then building her perfect life in Chelsea, I was the one who lived 20 minutes from my parents in Wimbledon. I was the one who took Dad to his colonoscopy when Mom had her book club. I was the one who remembered every birthday, every anniversary, who organized the Christmas roast, who dealt with the plumber when the boiler died, who listened to Mom's anxieties about Sarah's fragile marriage. Translation. Thomas worked 90-hour weeks and was rumored to have a girlfriend in Canary Wharf. I was the glue, the unspectacular, dependable mortar that held the beautiful, fragile bricks of my family together. And now, the bricks had decided the mortar was messy, an aesthetic distraction from their desired quiet. I picked up my phone. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. 100 responses fought for space. What do you mean? Why? What did I do? The old patterns, the desperate need for explanation, for inclusion, rose like a tide. Then I stopped. I saw my reflection in the dark computer screen, a woman with a good haircut, a successful interior design business, a beautiful, calm home she'd bought herself. A woman who had spent a lifetime arranging things beautifully for other people and had expertly arranged herself into the background of her own family. I typed a single word. Me, perfect. I didn't add a smiley face. I didn't ask what I could bring to the consolation lunch. I just sent it. And then I opened a new browser tab. I didn't book a luxury island getaway immediately. First, I sat in the silence of my own hurt, let it wash over me, cold and clarifying. This wasn't an impulsive act of spite. This was a tectonic shift. If my presence was optional for a major holiday, then my entire role was a fiction I had co-written, and I was done with the script. 2 hours later, I was on the phone with a travel concierge. Somewhere warm, I said, my voice steady. Private. No children. Extreme luxury. I leave Maundy Thursday, return Easter Tuesday. By that evening, it was booked. A villa on the island of Parrot Cay in the Turks and Caicos. White sand, turquoise water, a private pool, a personal chef. It cost more than I'd ever spent on anything in my life. It was an act of financial violence against my own frugal, responsible nature. It felt magnificent. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Sarah. Certainly not my few close friends who would have urged caution or offered pity. I packed a suitcase with linen and silk, bought a new swimsuit, and arranged for a neighbor to collect my mail. I was a ghost preparing to haunt a beach instead of a family home. The day before my flight, I saw my mother. She'd popped by, unannounced as usual, with a bag of spare scones from a bakery she knew I liked. It was a peace offering, a tiny salve for the wound she'd inflicted but refused to acknowledge. All set for your quiet week, darling? She asked, placing the scones on my kitchen counter, her eyes already cataloging my clean surfaces, looking for dust or disorder, finding none. Yes, very much so, I said, smiling. It was a real smile. It unnerved her. Good, good. Sarah says the children are so looking forward to a proper egg hunt in the garden. It'll be so intimate. I'm sure it will be perfect, I said, handing her a tea. My calm was a mirror, reflecting her own unease back at her. She stayed for 20 minutes, talking about the menu, organic lamb, heirloom carrots, a pavlova that would probably collapse, about Dad's golf, about Sarah's new kitchen extension. I nodded, smiled, and said nothing of substance. When she left, she hugged me a little too tightly. We'll miss you, you know, she murmured into my hair. I know, I said, and for the first time, I didn't believe it. The flight was a dream. The villa was a fantasy. For the first 2 days, I did nothing but exist. I swam in the sea at dawn. I ate papaya by my pool. I read novels that had nothing to do with self-improvement. I felt the sun soak into bones that had been cold for years. I did not feel guilty. I felt dislocated and then, gradually, relocated. To myself. On Good Friday, as my family would be debating the merits of hot cross buns from Waitrose versus Marks & Spencer, I took a picture. It wasn't staged for them. It was for me. I was standing on the powder sand beach at sunset, the water a gradient of impossible blues, a silhouette of pure, solitary peace. I posted it on Instagram. My caption was simple, gratitude. Palm tree sun hashtag paradise found hashtag Turks and Caicos hashtag escape. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. The detonation was not immediate. It was a slow burn, a chemical reaction happening 4,000 miles away. I imagined the scene. Sarah, scrolling during a rare moment of quiet, perhaps while the children were momentarily subdued by sugar. Her sharp intake of breath. The show to Thomas. Look, Maya's in the Caribbean. The hurried call to my mother. Did you know about this? The confusion, the dawning realization that my quiet week was not spent rearranging my sock drawer, but sipping champagne in a place they could only afford with Thomas's bonus. My phone began to light up. First, a comment from Sarah. Wow, looks amazing. Where's that? The faux casual tone was palpable. Then, a direct message from my mother. Maya, darling, that looks beautiful. Are you on holiday? You didn't mention. I waited until the next morning to reply to my mother. Me. Yes, a last-minute treat to myself. Parrot K. Needed some real quiet. Hope your dinner preparations are going well. The real quiet was a dart, finely pointed. I could feel her wince through the screen. Then came the phone call. I saw her name flash, buzzing against the teak outdoor table. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. A text followed. Can you call when you have a moment, please? I had a moment. Many of them. I chose not to use one for that. By Holy Saturday, the tone had shifted. Sarah called. I let that go to voicemail too. Her message was clipped. Maya, it's me. Call me back. Mum's upset. I posted another photo. This one of a spread of fresh fruit, lobster, and a glass of crisp rose, with the villa's stunning architecture in the background. Caption, lunch is served. Hashtag blessed, hashtag no cooking, hashtag no cleaning. The peaceful Easter they had wanted was now a nightmare of simmering resentment and unanswered questions. I knew the script. Dad would be bewildered, hiding behind the newspaper. Mom would be hurt, her feelings a weapon she wielded with expertise. Sarah would be angrily defensive, her perfect holiday narrative now shadowed by my more perfect, more independent one. The children would be oblivious, screaming through the house, their chaos now a grating counterpoint to the serene silence they saw on my feed. Easter Sunday arrived. At the exact time they would be sitting down to their intimate lunch, I posted a story. A 10-second video of the waves lapping the shore, the only sound the gentle hiss of foam on sand. The caption, the only chorus I need today. Hashtag Happy Easter. It was the match to the gasoline. My phone exploded. Not with calls, they'd given up on that, but with texts. They came in a staccato burst, a family meltdown in digital form. Sarah, seriously, Maya? You're rubbing our faces in it now? On Easter? You know Mum's in tears? This is so unbelievably selfish. Dad, your mother is very upset. This isn't like you. Please make contact. Mom, I don't understand. We just wanted a small family day. Was that so terrible? You've chosen to abandon us on a holy day to flaunt some extravagant trip. I'm heartbroken. I read them all, sitting cross-legged on my vast bed, the ocean breeze floating through the open doors. The old me would have been sick with anxiety, would have been composing lengthy apologies, explaining, justifying, begging for re-entry. The new me felt a clean, cold fury. Abandon them. They had uninvited me. Flaunting? I was living my life. Selfish? For not quietly accepting my demotion to second-tier family member? I didn't reply. I had a final brunch with my private chef, packed my bags, and took one last, long walk on the beach. I had found a quiet Easter, just as they'd wanted. Mine was just louder in its tranquility. The return to London was a descent into a different kind of storm. The silence in my flat was no longer peaceful. It was charged, waiting. I knew a confrontation was inevitable. I didn't have to wait long. The Tuesday after Easter, my mother appeared at my door. She looked exhausted, her usually impeccable makeup smudged under her eyes. "You're back," she said, her voice flat. "I am. Would you like to come in?" She stepped inside, her eyes doing their usual scan, but this time they weren't looking for dust. They were looking for evidence of the person who could do this to her. "How was your holiday?" she asked, the words barbed. "Transformative," I said honestly, offering her tea. She refused. "Ours was awful," she blurted out, the carefully maintained dam breaking. "Just awful. Sarah and Thomas fought the entire time. The children were monsters. Oliver broke a crystal vase your father brought back from Venice. Chloe screamed through the entire meal. And all the while, we had your broadcast from paradise thrown in our faces." I poured myself a glass of water, leaning against the counter. "I'm sorry your lunch was stressful, but that sounds like the exact chaos you invited. You just didn't want me there to see it, or to help manage it." She flinched. "That's not true. We just wanted simplicity." "You wanted the appearance of simplicity," I corrected gently, with Sarah's picture-perfect family as the centerpiece. I was set dressing mom, and when the set dressing started to have its own life, its own light, it messed up the shot. "So you edited me out." Tears filled her eyes. Not manipulative ones, but real, shocked ones. I had never spoken to her like this. I had never held up a mirror this clear. "You're my daughter. I love you. I know you do," I said. And I did know it, in her own limited, conditional way. "But you love the idea of me more. The reliable one. The easy one. The one who doesn't make waves." "Well, I'm making a wave now. A big one. And I'm not apologizing for it." "What does that mean?" she whispered. "It means I'm opting out of the role," I said, my voice firm. "I am no longer the family manager, the emotional sponge, the convenient daughter. I will be a daughter, a sister, on my own terms. Which means sometimes I will be there. And sometimes, if I'm explicitly not wanted for a quiet Easter, I will be somewhere spectacularly quiet on my own. And I will not hide it to spare your feelings." She left, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The aftermath was a Cold War. Sarah sent a few more blistering texts about family loyalty, which I ignored. Dad sent a solemn email about healing the rift, which I answered politely, but with zero concessions. Weeks passed, then months. I didn't chase them. I focused on my business, on my friends, on dating a lovely, uncomplicated man who taught pottery classes. I started saying no. No to last-minute favors. No to guilt trip visits. No to mediating between Sarah and my parents. At first, the silence was terrifying. The void where their demands and expectations had been was vast. But slowly, I began to fill it with my own desires, my own rhythms. The change came gradually. A hesitant invitation to a summer barbecue, which I attended, was pleasant but brief, and left early. A birthday card from my mother with a more heartfelt message. A text from Sarah about a school issue with Oliver, not asking for help, just sharing. It was awkward, like speaking a forgotten language. This past Christmas, I was invited. Properly. I went for Christmas Eve, brought a stunning bottle of wine and a gift for the children I'd actually taken time to choose. I was warm, but detached. I helped in the kitchen when asked, but didn't orchestrate. I left at a reasonable hour, pleading an early morning walk with my new boyfriend. As I was putting on my coat, my mother followed me to the door. The house was noisy behind us, the children squealing over a new toy. "Your Easter getaway," she said softly, not looking at me. It looked very peaceful. I met her gaze. "It was," I said. "It really was." A faint, complicated understanding passed between us. She would never fully admit her fault, and I would never fully forgive the sting of that text. But a new boundary had been drawn, in permanent ink. They knew now that I was not a guarantee, that my presence was a choice, not an obligation. I got in my car and drove away from the warm, chaotic glow of the house. I felt a pang, but it wasn't the old, aching loneliness. It was the bittersweet ache of growth. I had given them the quiet Easter they asked for, and in doing so, I had finally made enough space to hear my own voice. And it didn't ask for permission or understanding. It simply said, "Here I am." And that, I had learned, was enough.